Welcome to the Worship Band Builder Podcast, where we are working with you to lay the foundation for skillful worship. This is Eric Roberts, and this is my co-host, Emily Roberts.
Hello.
All right, and today we're talking about how often and how to introduce new songs to your worship team. And, I think there's some really key elements to this, some key techniques to use for this. And if you don't do this right, it can be a complete disaster long-term, right?
True. You're not wrong.
I am not wrong. I'm often wrong, but at this time, I'm not wrong.
Okay. So how many songs do you think that a worship leader should introduce, say, in a year?
Probably like 10.
10? I was thinking even maybe like 6.
Maybe. 10 would be the top. I was going to say 12, but then I thought, well, every month you might not be able to get them all in, so.
And that was my initial, when I sat down to think about this, I thought the maximum number of songs I would introduce in a year would be one a month.
One a month. That's key.
No more than that, for sure.
That's the key. How often should you? And my answer is no more than one a month. No more.
I agree.
No more than one a month.
And it could be less than that. You throw in Christmas, Easter, special events, that kind of stuff. It could be less. So that's why,
Yeah, 6 to 10. That'd be a good number. And we're talking about core songs that you're trying to introduce that you want to use
right,
within
not
your
a
time.
Special that you throw in for Easter or Memorial Day or what have you.
Right. So I guess let's ask that question then. How many songs are in your catalog? Probably, like your whole catalog of real songs that you're singing a lot. What do you think?
Songs that are in regular rotation?
Yeah, songs that your church sings that they know if they heard the song on the radio, it would make them think, "Oh, that's my church's song," or whatever.
Boy, that's getting tougher to say because I feel like the songs are switching out much more quickly than they used to.
Yeah, that's true. Back in the day, we had a folder, 80 songs. I'm talking about core songs, 50 to 80 to 100. 100 would be okay. You could say I'm going to have 100 songs. And that's what I did. I would take my spreadsheet. I'd have 100 songs in there, and I would kind of rate them by popularity. And there would be a top probably...
Popularity across the nation or just with your church?
Yeah, with my church, but it starts with the nation. So I would start with the national CCLI top as I'm picking, and we'll get to that part, I think. But the idea that on my list of 100, I'm probably doing 30 songs in rotation at any given time, maybe 20.
Right, that sounds more like it.
There's probably like the top 20 or 25, and then there's probably like the next 15 that are like a little bit good, but not all. And then you have some, so you're like 50 to 75 songs. I'm not trying to hold you down and say you can't have, that's why my list would probably be 100, but I'd probably be rolling off the top 50 or 40.
Right.
Week to week. And then you're adding one song maybe a month, and then you're knocking off a song or two a month of your list. Like, yeah, we're never going to do that one again, because it's old and we're kind of keeping that fresh. But there's something, that I like about church. When I go to a church, and we've been to different churches, and you'll hear songs they're singing, and you're like, oh, that's, so when you hear it later on the radio, it makes you think of that church or that time. And I think that's part of the key of picking a good list and rotating them heavily is people are familiar with them, and they even become a part of their faith walk in that era of their life. It's a song that their church sings. If you have too many songs, you'll never have that. That's the big mistake. You have so many songs that they don't know what's going to happen. They're not singing. A lot of people on worship leader forums will say, people are just staring at us. If that's happening, it's most likely your song selection. And it's a really artistic and creative thing to try to figure that out. What songs are really hitting with your congregation and then keeping them in the top rotation?
Well, I don't think you can judge what has connected with your congregation until you've played it 4 or 5 times. Because the first couple of times, they're just learning the song. And you have to assume that the only time that they are hearing or even trying to learn this song is on Sunday morning at church. Everybody's not listening to Caleb. So, it probably took you a few times to learn the song. You probably heard it over and over again before you even tried to start memorizing the words and the melody. So you have to give your congregation that same permission to learn the song.
Right. And I was talking to a church and they said, well, we tried this song and everybody stared at us. And it was a really popular song that does really well. And so I just thought, well, how many times did you do it? And they said, well, it was our first time. That is going to be awkward. So let me tell you this. Our church, we did a song, Shout Hosanna. And I really liked that song because I came from a church that did it a lot. And they liked it and they picked it and we kind of did it. And I think the second time we led it, the worship leader was like, well, I don't know if it was really hitting, I'm not really sure. And I was like, yeah, I think it's going to hit. I think he's like, okay, yeah, we'll keep going. We'll keep doing it a little bit longer and we'll see. I had the gut feeling that it was going to hit, and now we're singing it a lot more. And I think it is hitting. And when I mean hitting, like people are they're getting it. It's a great song. I could see the potential, but the first couple times we did it, we kind of had that talk like, I was like, yeah, I don't know. It didn't seem like they just really stared at us the whole time. And he was like, yeah, I don't know if they're getting it. But they're still doing it. I think they did it Sunday.
Oh, is that right?
So you see, I think it takes a little time to grow. So here's how I do it. And it is a talent. It is a craft in itself to find songs that fit your congregation that you can do. You have to be very perceptive and you have to get off of there's a lot of songs I love to do. And I love to listen to right here in my studio that I would never do at church. And I'm like, sometimes I'm sad about that. Like, I'm never going to get to do that song, but it's not going to go. You have to key in on what's going to work and then test, like you said, a couple more times, and then just get the feedback and decide, is that going to go or not? And if it doesn't go.
And it's okay if it doesn't. If you play the song 5 times and it seems like it's just not resonating, it's okay to let go of that one.
Yeah, in fact, you have to. You can't be like standing up there like, worship people, do it. You want a song that a few times in, they start singing and then the whole church worships with it and it becomes a great song. So how I kind of sneak that in is pre-service iPod music. So if I'm going to I have a playlist that I'm using all the time in the pre-service that's playing songs that I like that I think I'm going to put into the church rotation. So for months, they might be hearing Shout Hosanna as they're coming into church. It's psychological brainwashing.
Well, people like what they know.
Right. They like what they know. So before you ever sing it, you're going to play it to them.
It's very rare that you hear a brand new song and just instantly connect with it and say, yes, I love that song. You have to learn it and let it grow on you a little bit.
Yeah. And that's why CCM radio, country radio, they do this to us. They play us a song, which could be stupid. And after about a month, we're like, that is a stupid song. And then a month later, we are like singing, and then we buy the album and we love the song. It happens over and over again. And they do that to us.
If people were still buying albums.
Yeah, if they bought albums. But that's what happened. When you hear the song, you think it's dumb. I've really liked Brad Paisley. A couple of his songs, early days when I was listening, I heard him, I'm like, that's dumb. And then, a year later, I'm like playing them. And I like the song. So introduce it to them slowly, sneak it in, use it pre-service, use it if you do special videos, start working ahead and finding that song. I look to the top CCLI. I'm not saying they have everything figured out. I'm not saying every song on there's good, but I look at those songs first. What's the number 1, number 2, number 3? What are people singing? What is the radio playing?
If people are listening to the radio, then they're already familiar with those songs, and it gives you a little bit of an edge when you go in that first time playing it. You will have some people in the congregation that can join in and sing immediately.
Right. You need little wins, and you need to do it over a longer period of time. So That's how I choose the songs. CCLI, I do radio, I do just my own, I know who I like. I like Paul Blosh, I like Chris Tomlin, some of these guys, Lincoln Brewster, but I'll listen to some of their new albums and be like, no, those six or seven or eight or nine of those 10 songs are not going to work at my church. So I'm looking for gems. You've only got 6 to 10 a year.
Right.
So you're just looking for that one song to add. If you do this consistently, then your whole 25 or 30 songs in your top list are going to be really good songs. In other words, you can look and just pick any of those songs out of those 30 and know that your congregation is going to be like singing and worshiping. And they're really the final say in this, because it just doesn't matter how cool you think the song is. Unfortunately, it doesn't. I mean, I've had to give up a lot of those good songs because they just weren't the right song for that church at that time. So let's go into how these are a little more technicalities. What key to play the song in, what arrangement to use, and then we'll talk about how to know if the congregation connects with it, and how do you know it's a super flopper. So
I think let's start with the arrangement, because the go-to is always to try to make it sound like the radio version, the original recording of the song. But that doesn't have to be it. If that doesn't suit your band, you can make some changes. You can make it your own.
You're going to have to. Most of you out there are going to have to. Because the arrangements that are on the records right now, Hillsong, Elevation, any of these guys, they're way above a 4-piece band. Okay.
As long as you're sticking with the original melody and the original lyrics, then the arrangement is open to interpretation. The rest, that's more forgiving. It's really the melody and the words that need to stay in place.
And some of these really cool songs, Lion and the Lamb, I mean, it has that intro lick. You're going to want to try to play that on the keyboard or the guitar. Yes, if it's
got a recognizable riff in there, you want to try to nail that.
Yeah, and I know a lot of you guys are new at this, and some of you are smaller churches, and I've struggled with this my whole ministry, and I think I'd be struggling even harder now with if I was like the lead band leader, because the arrangements that we hear on the radio are so produced, and our worship leader is phenomenal at this. He'll just say right up front, I know there's 7 guitar parts in here, just make one that, play the one that sounds good or whatever, because there are like 5 guitar parts in that song making it sound like that. So when you come in as the electric guitar player, you're kind of like, well, I can't sound like 7 guitars all at once. I can sound like a few, but most of us can sound like one. So just don't be discouraged. And also with the keyboard and stuff, there's also usually 4 keyboard parts, and they're also, a lot of them are sampled in loops. Okay. So you're not going to play that on the keyboard. So this is going to make us all feel inferior and weird, and it sometimes makes the song sound funny and off because we're not doing what we heard on the record. So you have to work on your own arrangement. You have to break it down. Think Beatles, think 1990s rock and roll, country. You have guitar, and I'm just throwing out some genres. Think of those older genres where there was less produced looping.
Right.
Even 90s worship music. Don't think 90s worship music. Think more like, think Beatles, think old school rock, guitar, bass, drums, and maybe a piano player. And that's all they had. Look, with 4 good musicians.
Well, the Beatles didn't have a key player.
Yeah, a key player. But like the country guys will have like one lead instrument, a rhythm guitar player, a bass player, and then they kind of... The key to this is, and this isn't part of this podcast, but since we're landing on arrangement, let's just throw this in here and we'll do an arrangement episode. The key to this is get a really good drummer and bass player and lay them down and don't let them stop. They're always going to go. My drummers would always, like in the early days of before I could train them in, I would soften down a little bit, and the drummers would start softening down, and the bass players everybody would soften down all at once. I'm like, guys, you have to keep playing. So drummer, bass player, just lay it down and keep playing. And then you can sing, you can play acoustic. Anything you put on top of that is going to sound good. So that's just a little tip on arrangement. Get a really solid drummer and bass player and let them Let them lay down the rhythm and beat.
Solid, meaning consistent, can keep a tempo.
And keep playing. So even on a slow part or a soft part, they don't get all soft and weird and everybody gets awkward and then the song sounds like it's going to end. So you just like the drummer should be pushing forward and the bass player should have that low foundation. And then the arrangement could really, if you listen to music, really listen to production, it could be a really great vocalist, a drummer and bass player, and it could sound like an entire band, right?
Yes. Well, and your drummer and bass player, they don't have to be virtuosos. They just have to be able to keep a solid, steady beat.
Yeah, keep a steady beat and keep playing. So just work on the arrangement, okay? And then the key to play the song in, that's the other thing. When you're picking a new song, you got to pick a key for your voice. Okay, we talk about this in our vocal foundations.
There's every range of voice out there in the congregation. So you have to do what makes you sound the best as you're leading it.
Yeah, and
because you just can't make everybody happy with the key that you pick.
Exactly. I'm a baritone, and so these tenor worship leaders who are making these huge octave jumps are out of my range.
Oh, and I wanted to talk about the octave jump songs. There are so many of them right now, and honestly, nobody sounds good singing these. You either sound good in one octave or the other, maybe, or you don't sound good at all because
in either octave.
Because we're not really built to sing like that. There are very few people that could actually do that and just sound stellar in two different octaves.
Yeah, and remember, the recording artist is a recording artist who they are, the cream of the crop, the best singer that they have at Hillsong has recorded this song. And then they've also most likely vocal corrected that and done all kinds of stuff to make them sound good low and high. And they've done all this stuff. When you get up there in your church and you try to sing the verse low, you barely can sing the low. And then you try to stretch up to the high and then it's too high.
Reach up for the high. Yeah, you don't have to do this. If you love this song and you want to do it and it's got that octave jump, just skip the octave jump. Just sing it in a key that sounds good in your voice. Or potentially, if you have the skill, you might consider doing a modulation the second time through where you're only moving up a half a step or something, but that takes some arranging skill.
Yeah. Better yet, you could get you could sing the verse. I would sing the verse.
Have two different singers.
And Emily would sing the chorus because it would be, and sometimes it just feels like that. It's like, I can sing these verses, but when we get to the chorus, I'm going to switch to harmony. And then, you want to find in these octave jump songs the middle range where you sound good. And I have to do this on my play and sing videos and everything. I have to pick that middle range where I sound good and the song still has enough energy, because it is an amazing production when those guys go from low to high. I mean, it's got a lot of power. And if you can do it, you're probably a tenor and you probably got a really great voice. And so you can do those jumps. But most of us, especially baritones and maybe like altos, are going to really struggle to jump these octaves. So pick a good key for you, pick a great arrangement, pick a simple arrangement, and then you just have to, the last thing is just, what if it flops? How do you know if the congregation connects? Just watch them, ask the band, ask people. Don't be afraid to put the song on the stand, on the stand. Hey, did you like that song? If they like it, after a couple weeks, you're going to know it. And don't be afraid to give it a few shots. Don't be afraid.
People will come and tell you.
Yeah, they'll say, don't be afraid to give it a couple weeks, to do it once and then wait a couple weeks. So when we're introducing this, I forgot to mention this, so we'll just introduce this at the end. I usually introduce the song through secret subliminal messages, through through playlists and stuff like that. And then I usually will play the song in the service as an opener. Okay.
It needs to, the first time you play the song, it needs to be the first song on the set list, because that is when people are coming in and you're not going to get a lot of participation on that first song anyway. That's when they're coming in and getting comfortable. They're just kind of acclimating to their surroundings. They're looking at what you're wearing. They're figuring out who came to church. They're, resolving themselves to, yes, my children are settled in the kids area. They're fine. I remembered to bring everything I needed. all of those brain things that they have to check off before they can really participate. So it's an ideal place to put a new song.
Yeah, put it in the pre-service music for a week or two, then put it in the first position. Then if you think you're going to like it, you could put it in third position. But I'm talking about like first song, second song. If you put a brand new song in third position, it will flop. You really got to be careful about doing that. If it's a slow song, put it in the offering for a couple weeks because they're just going to sit there anyway. So you have to strategically place the song. You cannot. I have almost always flopped a new song in position 3 or 4. You have say you're doing 4 songs, opener, second, third, fourth. Your fourth song has to be one they really know and love. You can't put a brand new song in fourth or you lose everybody. It's like a worship experience killer, and third position is really bad too. It's really one, and like I said, if it's super slow song and it's going to be weird to open with it, put it in the offering, put it in the communion service a couple weeks until they really know it, and then you can put it in position 3. So if you see this is very a strategic movement to introducing a song. You cannot just, especially in this new modern, if you're building a band, you have to pick songs they love. The last thing I want to say, for our youth band that we're working with right now, we probably have, literally, we've been doing this for a while, and we had some interruptions with the COVID thing and all this shutdown, but we have about 6 songs, and we've been practicing and doing this for 6 months. 6 songs. It's all because they're young musicians. We're still learning. The youth group is young. They're still learning to sing, and you always want them to just feel like it's comfortable. It feels weird to keep coming back to youth band rehearsal every time with the same song, but the kids that are doing it with us love it. They get it. And then the kids in the youth group, they know those are the songs. So treat your congregation that way too, especially if you're introducing this new worship style, if you're introducing a new band. You don't want the song. You want the song to create the familiarity. That way, if you got a new instrumentation or all this weird new stuff you're kind of putting in, the songs become comforting, but only if you keep it small. So 5-10 songs, and just keep rotating them.
Right. And I would say don't let your confidence in the song depend on their reaction to the song, at least in the beginning, because I think the tendency is to expect them almost to already know the song because you learned the song. And so
Right.
you're excited about the song and you want them to jump in and be excited with you. But you have to, like I said, give them the permission to learn the song first. So if they are just staring at you like they're watching television, because that happens, give it a few more weeks.
Yeah, do that. So all of these show notes are in our show notes at worshipbandbuilder.com/podcasts, and you can check those out. Send us any questions you have, any comments. This is a really big key to succeeding in a modern worship band scenario, in a training scenario. Keep it simple. Keep it great. Just keep praying through it, and we'll be praying for you guys too. God bless you. Make sure you like the episode. Give us a share, a like, and a comment, because we like to hear from you. And we'll see you on the next episode.